Did you know that Seinfeld, one of the most beloved sitcoms of all time, was nearly cancelled after its first season? Yes, you heard it right. This classic show that has since become a part of our cultural fabric had a rather humble and shaky beginning. It all started with a simple idea. Two friends, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, decided to create a show that was a reflection of their lives as stand-up comedians in New York City. They wanted to break away from the traditional sitcom format and focus on the humor found in everyday situations. A bold move, yes, but one they were willing to take. But the road to success was lined with struggles. When Seinfeld first aired in 1989, it didn't receive the warmest of receptions. The ratings were low, and the reviews were mixed. Many critics didn't understand the show's premise, and some found the humor too mundane. The audience, too, struggled to connect with the show's unconventional style. This initial response put the show in a precarious position. The network executives at NBC were hesitant to renew the show after its first season, but a few, seeing the potential in David and Seinfeld's vision, decided to take a risk. They chose to keep the show on air, despite the low ratings and the uncertainty of its future success. This was a decision that would forever change the landscape of television. The gamble paid off. The show slowly but surely started to gain traction. The characters became household names, the catchphrases entered our daily conversations, and the show about nothing became something quite extraordinary. Against all odds, Seinfeld survived its rocky start and went on to become a television titan. A sitcom phenomenon that was born from an unlikely beginning and one that continues to resonate with audiences, even after more than 3 decades since it first aired. And that, my friends, is just the start of the Seinfeld saga. So what's Seinfeld really about? Well, famously, it's a show about nothing. That's right. Now you might be thinking, how can a show about nothing be so popular? Well, the genius lies in its unique premise. Seinfeld wasn't about larger-than-life characters fighting crime or navigating the high-powered world of business. Instead, it focused on the everyday life of Jerry Seinfeld, a stand-up comedian in New York City, and his group of eccentric friends. Instead of grand narratives or dramatic romances, the show thrived on the mundane, turning ordinary situations into comedic gold. It was about the small moments and minor annoyances we all experience but rarely see depicted on the small screen. Famed episodes like The Chinese Restaurant and The Parking Garage epitomize this idea. In The Chinese Restaurant, the entire episode is spent waiting for a table at a restaurant. No dramatic revelations, no high-stakes plot twists, just 4 friends trying to get a meal. Similarly, The Parking Garage takes place entirely in, you guessed it, a parking garage. The gang spends the entire episode trying to find their car. It's a situation that's frustratingly familiar to many of us, and Seinfeld spins it into a hilarious, memorable episode. What's so remarkable about Seinfeld is that it took these simple, everyday scenarios and made them engaging and entertaining. It didn't need to rely on over-the-top drama or action. Instead, it found humor in the ordinary, the mundane, and the downright boring aspects of life. It's this focus on the trivialities of daily life that made Seinfeld revolutionary. It wasn't just a sitcom, it was a commentary on the everyday, a mirror held up to our own lives, and a celebration of the banality of existence. So when asked what Seinfeld is really about, the answer is simple. It's about nothing. And yet it's about everything. It's about life itself, in all its glorious, mundane detail. In its embrace of the ordinary, Seinfeld found extraordinary success. Seinfeld wouldn't be Seinfeld without its unforgettable characters. And so we dive into the world of Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer, the quartet that made us laugh, cringe, and see our own lives reflected on screen. First up, we have Jerry Seinfeld, the semi-fictionalized version of the show's co-creator. Jerry is the eye of the storm, the calm center around which the chaos of the other characters swirl. He's a stand-up comedian by trade, and his observational humor seeps into every episode. He's the guy next door, the one who's always there with a quip or a sarcastic comment, and yet he's not without his own quirks. His cleanliness obsession, his endless string of failed romances, it's all too relatable. Then there's George Costanza, the lovable loser, the master of self-sabotage. Based on co-creator Larry David, George is a character who turns the mundane into the absurd. He's neurotic, he's insecure, and his harebrained schemes never work out, but that's what makes him so endearing. George is every worst impulse we've ever had, brought to life and hilariously magnified. Elaine Beans, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is the lone woman in the group, but she's far from the stereotypical sitcom girlfriend. Elaine is independent, smart, and just as flawed as the guys. She's not afraid to be petty, to be wrong, or to dance with reckless abandon, even if she's a terrible dancer. And of course, we can't forget Cosmo Kramer, the offbeat neighbor who lives across the hall. Based on Larry David's real-life neighbor, Kramer is a character unlike any other. He's eccentric, he's unpredictable, and his wild physical comedy is a sight to behold. From his sliding entrances to his get-rich-quick schemes, Kramer is the wild card that keeps us guessing. These four characters, in all their flawed glory, have become indelible parts of pop culture. They're more than just characters. They're reflections of the absurdity, the humor, and the unexpected beauty of everyday life. Seinfeld didn't just make us laugh, it changed the landscape of television. It created a new standard for sitcoms, a blueprint that many would follow, but few could emulate. With its unique blend of humor, character-driven stories, and unapologetic embrace of the ordinary, Seinfeld set a precedent that still influences television writing today. The show's success wasn't an accident, it was a calculated risk, a bold move that paid off in spades. Seinfeld dared to be different, to stray from the tried-and-true sitcom formula. And in doing so, it paved the way for other shows to take similar risks. It's not an exaggeration to say that without Seinfeld, some of our favorite shows might not exist. It was a game changer, a trendsetter, a trailblazer. But Seinfeld's impact extends beyond the realm of television. It permeated our culture, embedding itself into our everyday conversations. Who among us hasn't used a Seinfeld catchphrase at one point or another? No soup for you, yada yada yada. Not that there's anything wrong with that. These phrases, born in the writer's room of Seinfeld, have become part of our vernacular, our collective consciousness. And let's not forget its enduring relevance. More than 2 decades after its final episode, Seinfeld remains as popular as ever. Its reruns continue to attract viewers of all ages. Its episodes, timeless in their humor, still resonate with audiences today. Its characters, though exaggerated, are relatable in their imperfections. Seinfeld, in its own peculiar way, mirrors our lives, the triumphs, the failures, the mundane, the absurd. Seinfeld's legacy is much more than 9 seasons of laughs. It's a seismic shift in how we view and create television. It's a testament to the power of creative storytelling, the importance of taking risks, and the enduring appeal of humor rooted in the ordinary. It's a show that dared to be different, and in doing so, changed the face of television forever. And for that, we owe it a debt of gratitude. Because as long as there's television, there will always be a place for Seinfeld. Now let's delve into some of the most surprising facts about Seinfeld that even the biggest fans might not know. One of the most astounding revelations about Seinfeld is that it was nearly canceled after its first season. Yes, you heard it right. The show that went on to become one of the most successful sitcoms of all time was almost nixed in its infancy. The network executives didn't quite understand its unconventional humor and were ready to pull the plug. It was only after the show garnered a cult following that the executives had a change of heart. Most of the Seinfeld characters were inspired by real-life people. For instance, George Costanza, Jerry's best friend and a character known for his neurotic and self-deprecating humor, was based on co-creator Larry David himself. Elaine Beans, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, was inspired by a friend of Larry David, Monica Yates. And the hilarious soup vendor, known as the Soup Nazi, was inspired by actual soup vendor Al Yagane from New York City. Talk about art imitating life. Seinfeld's cultural impact is undeniable, and it has permeated into everyday life in ways you might not realize. The show has given us catchphrases that have become a part of the cultural lexicon. Phrases like yada yada yada, no soup for you, and not that there's anything wrong with that, originated from Seinfeld. And who can forget the infamous Festivus, a holiday for the rest of us, celebrated on December 23rd, which was invented by the show. Another surprising fact is the Seinfeld curse. Despite the show's massive success, the main cast members struggled to find similar success in their subsequent projects, leading to the term Seinfeld curse. It's a testament to the unique magic of Seinfeld that it's been tough for anything else to measure up. From its humble beginnings to its lasting legacy, the story of Seinfeld is full of surprises, just like the show itself.